Hey guys, welcome to the Faith Family channel. My name is Cece.
I'm Jason.
And today we're going to do another lesson. We're at lesson 11 from the Cornerstone. And these are Ages chapter 30 and 31. So join us. The topic of today is Jesus is calling, and we're going to read from Luke chapter 6, verses 12 and 13. That is our key verse. And I will read. Okay, read verse.
So 6 verses 12 and 13.
Yeah.
One of those days, Jesus went out to the mountainside to pray, and he spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles.
Yes. And before we go further, before we dive in further, I want to tell you guys a story. So the story is coming from. Where's the story coming from? I'll tell you a story all the way back in the 1800s. Something that happened in England. The two sons were born to the family of Taylor, and we have the oldest son and the youngest son. So the oldest son wanted to make a name for himself, and he chose to join parliament so that he'd make himself known to other people. If you're a politician, you know what happens. Yeah. But the second one gave up, like he dedicated his whole life, things to do with his friends, his family, and everything he chose to do with or deal with. He gave all that up to serve God, and with that, he chose to live an obscure life. And he turned his face towards China, where he became a missionary. So, later on, and I want to read something that it was mentioned. Now, for the son, now when you compare the two sons, we say that for the oldest son, however, later on, there was no lasting monument. And when you look in the encyclopedia, what you see is what the other son had done. So you find the words that the brother of Hudson, in that the oldest son who chose to become a politician, to chase, things to do with the pleasures, the worldly pleasures, was referred to as the brother of Hudson Taylor, who had devoted himself to serving, and in as much as yes, he chose to live a very obscure life, he made a name for himself and for his family, in that the other brother, the older brother, had to be referred to as his brother in the encyclopedia. So, Jason, you can take us through today's lesson.
I'm going to get the moral of the story, but let's.
So we need to get
this
it.
one. So the title of our study this week is Jesus Calling. And when you talk about Jesus calling, you're talking about his call of his disciples. And away from our normal understanding, I came to learn about this when I was reading this. Most of us normally think that the disciples were all chosen at one single moment, all of them, but I've come to find that we have the first 5 who were chosen, and then we have the others who came afterwards in between his mission. So one thing that is really interesting about the call of all these disciples, that he calls disciples from all walks of life. He doesn't really pick from, most of us, when we want to pick people who are supposed to surround us, we normally told to pick of the best. It's the same goes, the same goes telling your friends and telling your character. Like, your friends, what you surround yourself is what makes you. So Christ calling unto people who are regarded by society as poor, from low life, like the low life of society was way off what people had expected of him, because he picks of fishermen, tax collectors, He picked of fishermen, tax collectors, and basing on his mission, most people would have expected him to pick landed person. People would have assisted him in delivering this message. But one key lesson that we are getting from how Christ picked his disciples is, I think we also did this previously, like Christ he had to eradicate, he had to remove all this, how do I say, he had to unlearn what these people had already learned. I'm trying to look at it from the perspective. The Pharisees had instilled these lessons so much in them that they became blinded to what Christ was actually
like what they grew up believing. Christ had to.
He had to take it out,
yeah.
take it out completely,
yeah.
so that he had to teach them afresh. Like he had to brainwash them fully.
Not to brainwash them, but teach them the truth.
Yeah, teach them the truth.
They believed something that wasn't, expected of them.
Yeah, so he had to take out all that they had learned. Like this was a period of time in which people perceived Christ as coming as someone who will take away all. This looking at the perspective of these disciples, these were people who had lived a low life state. Like life was tough for them. They minimal food. They were being oppressed. One, they were under what's their name? They were in exile. Was it exile? They were under rule by another nation that was not theirs. So these are people who have been oppressed by people who are not of their own. And another misunderstanding that the Jews had was that they had owned Christianity as theirs. They were not willing to share it with the Gentiles. So these are people who are really feeling oppressed, and their oppression is coming also. They themselves are even oppressed themselves by not wanting to share the word with the Gentiles and with the non-Gentiles. So these are people who are really oppressed, and Christ coming for them. The disciples themselves had this, looking at it from the perspective of Judas, not even Judas, John and James. When the mother brings them, the mother is like, let my son sit on one on the left and the other on the right. So the disciples themselves had taken it like Christ had come with they had put it like he had come with his, he had come with his kingship, like a kingship. They wanted a kingship out of him. But Christ had come with a different goal completely from what they had. So when these disciples were being picked, they all had this notion in them. They had what they expected of Christ. But as time goes by, as they keep learning from Christ, he teaches them something very different, as we are going to learn from the Sermon on the Mount that he is going to give to them. He teaches them of something very different from what they had in mind of him. So through these years that they spend in Christ, he converts them into very different beings. We even have people who are not learned, people like Peter, who no one would have expected. Yeah, like fishermen became really influential people in spreading the word of God. So over their time with Christ, over him teaching them over his mission, years of mission on earth with them, he teaches them a lot of things and converts them into being influential instruments in his vision.
Yes, and I want to pick up from what you said, but before I do that, I just want to mention that when we're called to be Christian, when you're called out, we leave our past behind and we change our lives. Like everything about us has to change. Yeah? So if you look at the disciples, when Christ said to them, I will make you fishers of men, not fishers of men. Oh yeah. So and if you also look at how God called out, people like Moses, Jeremiah, these people are very lowly people. In that Moses was a stammerer.
Moses was learned, but Moses actually
he was learned, but he was a stammerer.
I don't think Moses was not a stammerer.
He was.
That was an excuse, but he wasn't. Wasn't really.
Okay. Guys, tell us on Okay, but anyway, we have Moses, we have Joseph, who his brothers abandoned him. They didn't want anything to do with him. We have Jeremiah, who was young. We have Jonah, who I think who lacked courage. That's my perception. When Jonah, who didn't, he was a son of a Mitai. He went to Tarshish.
Yeah,
Instead of Nineveh. So we see how God made these people great people that we learn from currently. And it's the same thing that Jesus did to his disciples. Like he called fishermen and he changed their lives, like John the Baptist. John the disciple. John the disciple wrote a very beautiful book, and that is the book of Revelation. Peter became a preacher, someone who acted out on his anger. When he was angry, he really acted out. Christ used him to do something great. So, what I wanted to pick from what you said is the way, the focus on worldly pleasures. There's something that you mentioned somewhere around. I just can't remember the word that you used, but Christ disappointed people with the hope of worldly pleasures or worldly greatness by what he preached to them in the Sermon on the Mount. And I just want to read a few of the Beatitudes. I'll read them from the book of Luke. Okay, I love the book of Matthew. Should I go to the book of Matthew? But I'll just read from the book of Luke. Luke chapter 6, verses 20. No, let me just go to Matthew.
Matthew is more friendly.
Yes. It's okay. Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 to all through to 12. And it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and the thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you who, when they revile and persecute you, and they say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake, rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And just something that I read from the pages to just pick up from that is that, first of all, before I go further, let me tell you guys, go and read the Ephesians chapter 31. John is one who really insisted that I should.
It's the whole.
But it's really
It's the whole lesson that is so interesting. It teaches you a lot about Christ training. The sermon on the model was it's really a sermon. There is a sermon that it's given. It's really has a lot.
It's deep. It's really deep. So I'm just going to read a small part. And it says that if let me just go back. The difficulties that we have to encounter may be very much lessened by the meekness which hides itself in Christ. So if we possess the humility of our Master, we shall rise above the slights, the rebuffs, the annoyances to which we daily are exposed to. And they will cease to cast a gloom over the spirits. The highest evidence of nobility in a Christian is self-control. So basically, like when we choose to follow Christ and we choose to follow this greater teaching that Christ purposed for us, then for sure we shall be able to conquer most of everything that has been brought forth to us, and that it will help us to be shaped to be better Christians. And one thing throughout the whole lesson that Christ wanted us to learn is that he never, first of all, he never made a direct attack on the errors of the people. Rather, he saw the misery of people based on sin, or on the account of sin. And so what Christ did was that he taught everyone a lesson that is something better than they had known, in that he had to take away the pleasures of the world, and he taught them something that is greater, much greater. Like, blessed is the kingdom. I mean, blessed are the poor in spirit, for that's the kingdom of heaven. I don't know if you can see that, but he taught something that is greater. And for the story that I told earlier, is that sometimes you can chase so much that the world has to offer, but it is all in vain. But if you choose to stick by God, then when we're making His name great, we're also known to bring that out, and in a way, we show Jesus Christ through other people, and that is one thing that people will never forget: how you change their lives. For what was his name? This Taylor's youngest son. He changed the lives of the people in China, and that is what made his name great, rather than the one who chose to become a politician. And yeah.
One other thing before you forget, when Christ is teaching this lesson collectively, one thing that is being picked up collectively, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the people he was addressing. These were people who were oppressed. These were people who were being denied what was rightfully theirs. But what Christ is teaching them out of this sermon is he's teaching them to be like way contrary. He's teaching them to let go of their aggressiveness. These are people who wanted to become aggressive, but he's teaching them to become humble, to look at things in a different manner and not feel entitled. They were feeling entitled to a lot of things. They were feeling entitled to them being the sons of Abraham. They are feeling entitled to them having been the chosen nation. But Christ is teaching them to look at things, to look at themselves as a united front. He was teaching them to feel they were not to, how do I say it? To see as them and their oppressors, to not look at their oppressors with an evil eye, but to show them love, even though they were being oppressed. That's what Christ talks about when you slapped on the left cheek, turn the right. So he was like basically he was telling them to become doormats for what they felt like was rightfully theirs. But that was a lesson that he was trying to teach them, that it calls for them to be humble, for them to receive the kingdom of God. It's not forced unto you, like we even don't deserve it, but it's given to us by grace, like it's purely grace. It's So like he was teaching them something different from what he was teaching them something more complex that they needed to really, I think it really even took them a while for them to understand, even the disciples themselves.
Even for us, like
whether it's even for ourselves, come to think about it, most of us sometimes we lose the beauty of life in the small things and start to feel like these things are not usual, but it's purely God's grace that gives us that assures us of this salvation that we all seek to attain.
And just to summarize, something that the lesson says, the Cornerstone says, is that Christ wasn't really speaking about the kingdom of glory rather, he was focusing on the kingdom of grace, and that is something that dwells within our hearts. In that, once you've chosen to, you've accepted the calling, or you've chosen to become a Christian, and your life, God changes our hearts, our minds, and everything about us. So, by us choosing to accept grace, then everything about us changes, and that is how we're able to receive the reward that Christ is talking about. So,
yeah, receiving the reward. And this is what we mentioned. Saying for Christ to manifest Himself in you, like for us to have the presence of Christ. It also, when I was talking about Christ needed to unlearn all the things that the disciples had learned.
didn't mention that.
Exactly. Maybe never mentioned it, but we need to let go of ourselves, like it's loss of self, so that Christ can show up in you. Like you need to let go of self-entitlement and really learn that it's Christ who's giving you all these things. So it's you lose yourself completely in Him so that you can find yourself in Him once again.
And something also, I don't know. Okay, let me just mention this. As Christians, you see the way the Bible is saying that blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Something that Jesus words is like, and the right words in Leviticus chapter 31. She's speaking about how we need not to be spiritually proud. And I think that is one thing that affects us as Christians, especially if you feel like you really know the Bible and you need to prove yourself that I know these things. And once you're spiritually proud, you get to miss the low points, especially when someone who's a non-Christian, comes to you, like maybe probably most people come to you and they'll be like, prove to me that God really exists, or an atheist comes to you and they want you to prove that God exists, and you start speaking in a way that you're proud. And when you speak in that manner, it becomes an argument, and that's something that has taught me. You know him, yeah?
Yeah, I know him.
So, when he was explaining this part to me, like when someone comes to you and you tend to tell them or introduce to them your ways and things like that. If you speak to them in a proud manner, you get to know the person. Because it will be like, if it's an atheist, you guys will fight. You'll be like, no, but you'll be countering every point instead of reaching out to their hearts. And I think this is why Christ was talking about, was focusing on the kingdom of grace, in that he was trying to make the message to dwell in people's hearts, so that once you reach out to the heart of someone, that way you're able to reach them out more and be able to save them. So I think I'm digressing.
No, you're actually on point. You just reminded me of something that we were discussing last week on the lesson. Most of these things they will normally do are normally out of routine. You're just so used to hearing them such that you miss the point. It's in a case like as such that you're trying to teach someone something. You're so used to how do I say it? You're used to things going a certain way such that you get a slight into attacking forward again. Yeah. You become how do you say you become
aggressive.
You become aggressive. It's called for humbleness. It calls
something else Christ does in the sermon.
Yeah, so it calls for being humble. Like being humble is really key. I think this whole thing is all about the suffering so much how you need to be humble. This thing it calls for us to deliver this sermon, for us to deliver this mission. It calls for us to be humble in our delivery. That is when in this case, I'm assuming on the Sermon on the Mountain, if Christ was not really humble in how he delivered this sermon to them, because the sermon to them wasn't really hit what the Pharisees were teaching, like direct hits. This was Christ hitting them and telling them, if he was to speak them in a different, I'm assuming if he had any other different language, if Christ, I'm assuming the same vigor that Christ took away when chased people out of the temple, if he used the same vigor to deliver this message, they would have crucified him. But how humbly he delivered this message, really, he spoke to their hearts, in as much as they don't think they got it at that moment, but he really spoke to their hearts at that time.
And just to finish up, something that the SDA commentary volume 5, paragraph 325 says is that the kingdom Christ came to establish was one that begins within men's hearts, permeates their lives, and overflows into other men's hearts and lives with a dynamic and compelling power of love.
Amen.
So,
they won't speak for themselves.
yeah.
And so I think we'll finish at that. So thank you for sharing with us the lesson this week. See you next week.
Bye.